All right, we're going to get you back to the Widow's Words murder trial in just a moment. But first, here with me to discuss this hour, National Trial Attorney Michael Jaafar. Michael, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me here on the program. And, you know, what we've just been listening to, you know, we talk about smoking guns in cases. I mean, this is not technically a smoking gun, but Mike, these text messages, an hour before, the activities leading up to and beyond the time of the 911 call, I mean, I think it's as close to a smoking gun as you can get.
Yeah, they're more compelling, honestly, than a video showing this happening, because a video could technically be doctored, right? These are not. Nobody had access to your Snapchat and send messages and then delete 61 of them. It just boggles my mind, the behavior of some people. Obviously, you don't have to be a professional criminal to know that this is going to happen and that you're not messaging about an impending murder an hour later and then after the fact. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. I like the way you framed it, smoking gun. I'm going to use that from now on. These messages, these forensic data, these are smoking guns. I don't see how she's going to get out of it. At the end of the day, I don't see how he's going to get out of it when his trial starts. But for her as well, I just don't see how she's going to get out of it. It's not embarrassing. This is just completely baffles my mind, the behavior of some people. Snapchat, you use Snapchat. We can find out what you did. Trust me on this. You cannot text.
That's the thing. Yeah. People think that Snapchat, the stuff disappears and it's gone into the ether. Not the case, people. Not the case. Mike, stand by. I do want to get folks back into court now. The detective is now on cross-examination. Let's see what the defense tries to do with this witness. Let's bring back in National Trial Attorney Michael Jaafar to discuss. And Michael, that was the end of the cross-examination. And I want to get your characterization of what we just saw. I mentioned earlier, it seems like she was sort of picking away at various things. Number one, to kind of show the things that maybe this expert didn't know, but also that there's some context that might be missing for some of these text messages.
Yeah, because we know that essentially there's a smoking gun right now, electronically. We have to see the context of the smoking gun, right? Was a smoking gun thrown there by somebody? Did you find it and coincidentally the cops showed up? I'm speaking metaphorically, obviously. So the context in these text messages is the only card that this defendant can play to either get a lesser included charge or to get off freely. I don't think in any way she'd get off freely. I think the best she can hope for is a lesser included charge, some sort of aiding, something, right? So the context is her only card. That's her only defense. That's the only thing she can play. So I think the defense attorney did what she has to do. I think this entire trial is going to be about framing things into the proper context. The defendant's courtroom demeanor is going to aid her in that. I like her courtroom demeanor so far. Look, it is possible that this woman was manipulated by a manipulative person who was a vengeful, murderous type of person who really thought he was going to get access to a $500,000 life insurance policy by manipulating a woman who he seemed to be as a target of opportunity. He looked at her as a target of opportunity, allegedly, right? So context would be the only way out. So the defense attorney, we now know what their strategy was in the game room before the trial started. They're showing it right now. They're doing a good job.
So could absence be a plus for the defense? And by absence, I mean, number one, she pointed out that there were 876 messages that seemed to have been sent to Houston's phone from Karina's phone that they could not find. They could not figure out what they were. So you have that, I guess, could help you with context if we knew what they were. But we also have this guy, Houston Danker, who they're pointing the finger at, who's not going to be testifying. He's not getting on the stand in this trial. He's got a trial coming up in August. As a matter of fact, I looked at the paperwork in that trial. He's going to be claiming he wasn't even there that night, so he's not taking the stand.
Wow.
In this case. Exactly. I said the same thing. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the fact that he's absent, the fact that we may not have a lot of context for some of these very damning text messages, is that helpful for the defense?
1,000% yes, helpful to the defense. And for that reason, I say this defendant's going to have to take the stand, and she's going to have to, because in the absence, she could come out and say, not lie, but she could come out and say, I was warning him to stay away from my husband, to stay away from my family, telling him we're just joking. This is all a joke. Don't do this. I don't want you to do anything. I'm happily married. She could say that was some of the messages that were absent, or her telling him, leave me alone and get out of my life. He was trying to manipulate me. So the absence, anytime you're trying to frame something as a contextual issue and you're missing the context, missing text messages are always helpful to the person making that argument. So the absence will in fact be helpful, and I'm hoping that her defense attorneys have a plan for that. And that would be like the schism that you have where you can go through as a defense attorney, you have like an opening and you go through, and that's where your talent shines in framing a defense argument.
Yeah, and I would say some of those text messages could be him grooming her, him, manipulating her, because again, they're saying that he was manipulating her and luring her into all this. I want to talk about that. You said, wow, to the fact that he's going to be claiming he wasn't there. And again, this is to the paperwork I've read from his upcoming trial. He's basically going to have an alibi defense, and you know who's taking the stand to testify for him, Mike? His mommy and his daddy. His mother and his father are going to be, this is what it says in the paperwork. They're going to testify that he was with them at the time that this went down. Now, he has a little bit of a problem because we see the text messages here at 3:31 in the morning. It happened, that was about an hour before this happened, but hey, stranger things have happened.
Well, he looks like a teddy bear in his mugshot, so maybe that mommy and dad are going to come in and cuddle him in the trial. Look, he's innocent until proven guilty. There's two universes here in this case. There's a universe where he did it and the universe where he didn't do it. We technically don't know which universe we live in. It's his job at this point. I know that the burden of proof is on the state, but the burden of proof is always on the defendant when you have a bunch of smoking guns pointing in your favor. You have some burden, right? Otherwise, if you don't have a burden, every single defendant would be acquitted since the beginning of time, right? But a lot of defendants get convicted. Why? Because you have a burden, and he's bringing his mommy and daddy to help him shoulder the burden. It's going to be a very interesting trial. I did not know any of this until you just said it, and I thought that this trial, the one coming up for him, is a giveaway. But it's actually not going to be. It's going to be very entertaining to see. I want to see the results.
Yeah, I would agree. There is this bloody footprint at the crime scene, which they didn't match to anything in her house. I do not know if it matches his. If he's claiming he wasn't there, he must know it doesn't match. So I don't know, a lot to talk through in that trial when it does come up. Michael Jaafar, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Truly appreciate it, my friend.